Welcome to the True North Country Comics podcast, dedicated to promote Canadian comic book creators and supporters. It's April 15th, 2021. I'm John Swinimer. If you want to drop me a line, you can contact me at john@truenorthcountrycomics.com. On this episode, I chat with Hannah Myers and Bevan Thomas about Through the Labyrinths of the Mind. This podcast is available on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts, and it's also available on the True North Country Comics channel on YouTube. I invite you to like and subscribe. Hannah is a comic artist, illustrator, cat portraitist, scenic painter, editor, and decorative artist working out of Vancouver, British Columbia. She's also an Emily Carr graduate, cat tamer, knitting fiend, coffee addict, book sniffer, and cheese enthusiast. She's most known for The Witching Hours, an anthology project featuring stories about magical women. Formerly the vice president on the Cloudscape Comics board, Hannah is now editor-in-chief of Cloudscape Comics Projects. Bevan is a writer, editor, and creative writing teacher best known for his involvement with Cloudscape Comics of British Columbia's largest comics collective. Bevan has written for 9 of their anthologies and has been an editor on 5, including Waterlogged, Megafauna, and Swan Song. He also spearheaded the epic Canadiana series of graphic novels, which pays tribute to the classic Canadian comics of the 1940s, and which won Cloudscape the Jean Day Award at the 2016 Joe Shuster's. Bevan's work has also appeared in the anthologies Beyond and Superhero Universe, Tesseract's 19, and the magazine Pulp Literature. In addition, he served on Cloudscape's board for many years, helping the organization to engage inspiring writers and artists with the comic book medium. Bevan teaches writing for comics and comic book history in Langara College's graphic novel and comics program. Through the Labyrinths of the Mind, available through Kickstarter, is described as a graphic novel anthology that explores mental health through 11 stories of struggle, insight, and triumph. And so, without further ado, here's my chat with Hannah Myers and Bevan Thomas about Through the Labyrinths of the Mind. So we're here with Hannah Myers and Bevan Thomas. Thank you very much for taking time to chat with me.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, excited to be here.
Good stuff, good stuff. Well, Hannah, you and I chatted last year at VanCaf, the virtual one, and it was a great chat. We talked about your first comic book, but haven't talked with Bevan before. So to get things started, Bevan, maybe you could tell me, what was the first comic book that you read?
So I kind of grew up in the 1980s in Vancouver. So back in those dark ages, the library did not really have a comic section. The children's section of the library would have big piles of Asterix and Tintin. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up, that's probably the stuff I read when I was really young, especially because my mom had spent some time in Belgium when she was young, and so she knew she was a fan of those comics too, and so that's kind of what started my love of comics.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's been a great influence for many people that I've spoken with, so tremendous there. But maybe we could carry on and ask both of you, who are your influences today? Maybe Hannah, we'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. Influences today, I feel like I'm mostly, because I've spent so much time recently involved in the Vancouver comic scene, I'd say that my strongest influences right now are just the people that I know who are working locally, like my good friend Eden Cook, Wes Harmon, just everyone involved in Cloudscape, Bevan, Jeff. Yeah, loads of local. There's so many incredible local artists that are Cloudscape members. Actually, Cloudscape has a membership page where you can see all the different contributors, past and present. So
that's tremendous. A great group of people out there. Bevan, how about you? Who influences your work today?
So, I'm attracted to a lot of sort of supernatural kind of stories that kind of use sort of fantasy elements as kind of metaphors for human experiences. Alan Moore and Grant Morrison are big influences on me. I also got into a lot of French stuff, especially like David B. with his memoirs like Epileptic, or his more fictional stuff like Incidences in the Night. Sort of some really sort of strange psychological pieces.
Very good. Great influences there, that's for sure. So we're here talking about your most current project, Through the Labyrinths of the Mind. So I'm wondering if you both can tell me a little bit maybe what it's about and maybe the origins of the project.
Sure. Well, why don't I just tell you about how it all started? So in 2019, when we were all meeting in person, I was at Van Calf with Bevan, and Bevan approached me and asked me if I thought Cloudscape would be interested in publishing a anthology on mental health. Now, I was on the board at that time and was trying to bring some new ideas to Cloudscape, so I was super interested in this project and really helped. I like to think I helped Bevan push it through the board to get it approved. And Bevan, do you want to tell us a bit about the book?
You could say this genesis started kind of at the beginning of 2019. I was just going through an intense sort of attack of depression and anxiety, which are two things that I'm prone to. And I watched an unusual movie, The Justice League versus the Fatal Five, which is a direct-to-DVD animated DC movie about two superheroes who have to battle against a team of supervillains from the future. And what really intrigued me is that the protagonists, Starboy and Jessica Cruz, they suffered from mental health issues. One of them had schizophrenia, and the other one crippling anxiety. And I just felt that movie was speaking kind of directly to me and to what I was going through at the time with my own depression and anxiety. And I felt like a part of myself was being acknowledged and kind of turned into a symbol of heroism and bravery on the screen. And I felt that was incredibly empowering, that I'd been heard. And so it made me want to really, in my own writing, push towards writing stories about depression, anxiety, other stuff that a lot of people wrestle with, so that other people can kind of feel heard in the same way that I felt heard watching that movie. And since I am extensively involved with Cloudscape and have been an editor and a writer on various projects, Cloudscape seemed a very reasonable choice to kind of to start my my engagement with that particular theme.
Yeah, that animated project that you mentioned certainly got a lot of critical acclaim using the medium of animation to bring these very serious issues to light. And I guess now what you're doing is you're using the form of the graphic novel or comic book to also do the same thing.
Yeah, very much so.
Great. Now, this is it one story in this book, or is it an anthology?
It's an anthology. Well, the project is an anthology.
Is it one continuous storyline, or does each contributor add something based on this narrative, this theme that you've been talking about?
Each contributor adds something. That was a very important part for what this book is supposed to be, because numerous people go through different issues, and even if it's the same issue, they respond in a different way. One person dealing with depression, that's going to feel very different from another person, especially if they're coming from a different culture or a different gender or something like that. And so we wanted a variety of people to speak from the heart and to show their diverse experiences and their diverse reactions to these issues.
Very good. So, Hannah, what was your role in this project?
Yeah, so when Bevan approached me about it, I mentioned I was working on the board at Cloudscape, so I was the vice president and trying to sort of help find new projects to bring in that I thought were exciting. And I did also have experienced some struggles with mental health, so that's another reason why I was really excited about this project. But in the middle of this project, my role with Cloudscape changed slightly because I was super interested in improving the publishing program there. I ended up actually being hired. I switched. I stepped down from my position as a board member and was hired on as the editor-in-chief at Cloudscape. Yeah, so now I was sort of like helping Bevan, giving some guidance and sort of being the go-between. He would be the one communicating and giving artists criticism, constructive criticism, that is. And then I would be sort of helping him review things and communicating with contributors here and there, etc. So we've kind of worked on it in a very collaborative way.
Very good. Bevan, do you have your own story in this book as well?
Yes. So I have collaborated with the artist Devin Rosichuk, very amazing artist, and the sorrows of Geraint, son of Urban, sort of an adaptation of a King Arthur story. Since I've sort of got a British heritage, Welsh heritage, I found it meaningful to kind of go back and to sort of take a Welsh folktale from sort of my ancestors that's about someone dealing with some of the same issues that I've dealt with. It felt very meaningful to me.
Now, I know that you mentioned the other contributors, and we're hopeful that we'll have a chance to talk to them in the future. But Hannah, did you want to list off who else is contributing to this project?
So I'm actually a contributor as well. And then we have Bevan and his artist, Devin Rosichuk. We have Carla Monterosa, Jack Briglio, Elaine M. Will, Amy Fox, Alina Pete, Eden Cook, Katie So, Rachel Smith, Kelly Chen, Jesse Charles Cowell, and Devin Taylor. The cover is going to be done by Space Coyote, which is Nina Matsumoto, the artist behind Spark 1 and 2. We're going to have some really cool additional stuff that we're going to be releasing for the Kickstarter.
Sounds good. So what's your hope? Once this project is complete, what's your hope that it will accomplish?
Well, I think that, as I said before, when I watched Justice League versus the Fatal Five, just that moment of being seen, to sort of feel a work of art that has someone else experiencing some issues that are akin to what I felt, like that's really important to me. Probably the biggest thing is I want people that have wrestled with their own mental health issues to feel a sense of kinship with what they encounter here, and also a sense of empowerment. Like all of the stories in the book are ultimately stories of success, of people who deal with their inner demons and are able to rise above them, to succeed. And so I hope for that to be an empowering experience. These are also very unusual, like often very personal experiences dealing with these issues that are often misunderstood by people who haven't experienced them. So I also hope that if readers who don't suffer from mental health issues can gain a more of an understanding and an empathy towards those that do from reading these stories.
And perhaps start a conversation to engage and perhaps seek out more information.
Yes, very much so.
Very good. Now, you mentioned Kickstarter. Hannah, have you been involved in a Kickstarter before?
I was an editor for a project through Cloudscape called The Witching Hours. That was successfully crowdfunded on Kickstarter with Cloudscape in 2019. And I've sort of been working a bit behind the scenes on a couple of the last Kickstarters that Cloudscape's done.
Do you have any advice for people who might be considering their own Kickstarter project to create their own comic book? Any hints or tips?
Well, there's that could be a whole podcast in itself.
Sure.
But I'd say, try and keep your goal as low as you can, make sure you're covering everything, but don't, overestimate the amount that you think you're going to get. and try and make your page look great. Put a lot of good images. I've been experimenting with some GIF making or GIF making, however you want to pronounce it. But yeah, I think making your page look good really attracts people.
Good advice, that's for sure. And as you said, yeah, there is. We could be talking endlessly about this, but
Oh, yeah.
I know that there is definitely a lot of interest in Kickstarters, and I've seen a lot of great ones that very successful, and it's definitely a way for creators to get the word out without having to shell out money out of their own pocket. They can crowdsource, I think, is really a great benefit to this.
Yeah, what we're finding with Cloudscape too, especially with an anthology, is that those just do better because you have the names of every artist. They bring their own fan base. Their fan base is always often looking for a way to support, the artists that they love. And so when you have an anthology, that's 11 different fan bases that come together to help support the creation of a project, which is just one of the reasons why I think anthologies are really fun.
Absolutely. Now, we've been talking about Through the Labyrinths of the Mind, but I'm wondering, when that's complete, what are you on to next? What's your next project? Maybe, Bevan, you can talk a bit about your next stuff.
That's a very good question. I mean, actually, probably my big project after that is not going to be comics. I like to work in lots of different mediums. So I am developing a novel right now. I guess a supernatural mystery set in the city of Victoria and drawing upon all sort of urban legends. So I'll be devoting a lot of energy to that. So probably also contributing to some upcoming Cloudscape anthologies. I'll have to see. I like to work in a variety of mediums.
Sure. And where can people find out more about your current and future projects online?
I do have a website, bevanthomas.ca, that lists my various publications, the anthologies I've appeared in, and where you can purchase them, as well as various other relevant information about me and a blog I update once in a blue moon.
Sounds good. Hannah, how about you? What's next for you?
Oh boy, well, Cloudscape's working on lots of exciting projects right now that I'm kind of helping out with. So we're going to be publishing a few more books this year, and we've got a big anthology called Fantastic Frights that's going to be launching on Kickstarter in October. It's going to be like a huge sort of all ages horror anthology. So that's really exciting. But yeah, we've got Last Tide Part 2. That was one of our big books last year. So Part 2 is going to be coming out later this year. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff going on.
Sounds good. And where can people find out more information about these future projects from Cloudscape?
Sure. Well, all that information you can find at www.cloudscapecomics.com. And from there, you can sign up for the Cloudscape newsletter and then find us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter.
Sounds good. Well, Hannah and Bevan, those are all the questions I have for you, but I'm wondering if there's something I didn't ask that you'd like to get across in this interview.
Yeah, actually, I think there is one thing. So I think that one thing that I found especially interesting through the exploration of Through the Labyrinth of the Mind is just the different ways that the contributors have for sort of addressing kind of similar issues. So, like, we have the particular issues often symbolically represented in particular ways, like having depression being almost like a suffocating kind of black mask that envelops the person, or someone's anxiety being a mask that they wear to hide their true self. OCD being little gremlins whispering in someone's ear and stopping them from concentrating. And I just think that's a really fascinating thing about the book and about the comic medium, is it's really allowed all the different contributors to express their own issues and their own experiences in these unique, symbolic, and very personal ways.
Thanks to Hannah and Bevan for the chat. You can discover more about Hannah on Instagram at HANANA bread and online at hannahloumyers.com. And you can discover more about Bevan on Twitter at BTHOMASA and online at bevanthomas.ca. You can discover more about Through the Labyrinths of the Mind on Kickstarter. And thanks to you for listening to the True North Country Comics podcast. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to and like this podcast on Apple Podcasts. And please leave a good rating. Also check out the TrueNorthCountryComics.com website and follow along on Twitter at True North Comics. True North Country Comics is now on YouTube. Please like and subscribe to that video channel. Please send your feedback to John at TrueNorthCountryComics.com. Thanks again for listening, and come back soon for another episode. Bye for now. True North Country Comics podcast is copyright True North Country Comics, copyright 2021.